a new report has said Tesla has achieved a breakthrough in single-piece car casting. We all already knew that Tesla has massive gigacasting machines, but this is an entirely different way of making the car. In fact, this just makes Tesla EVs that much cheaper and that much more efficient to manufacture if this report is in fact correct. And I believe it is. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. It's great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Just want to say a big thank you to our Patreon supporters, YouTube members, and just everyone who has supported the channel this year. Really appreciate every single one of you. In fact, you personally have just set an example to me to kind of illustrate that there are some really good people in the world. Your many messages and your emails, I, of course, haven't been able to respond to all of them, but I've read them and they've truly meant a lot to me. Thank you. Tesla has achieved a breakthrough in single-piece car casting. Apparently, they are about to make Hot Wheels-like single-piece car casting a reality, according to an insider report. In a number of years over the past, Tesla has massively invested in large casting technology to produce vehicle bodies in just a couple of large parts rather than hundreds. Hyundai have said that they plan to copy Tesla over the next few years. They're going to start, they've called it hypercasting, but it's just a way of rephrasing Tesla's gigacasting phraseology. But of course, Hyundai is saying they're going to do their own special hypercast, but they won't really. They'll just order them like everyone else is from Idra. Idra, the big company in Italy who produce the gigacasting machines, and they now produce them for 8 different Chinese car companies. So for those of you who are new to the Tesla Gigapress, the automaker now operates several of the world's biggest casting machines. In fact, we believe they might be the biggest, which it refers to as a gigapress. And Elon Musk has often referenced how he was inspired by Hot Wheels cars, little toy cars. He looked at one of those, he took it apart and he thought, why don't we make cars this way? It's so much more simple. Make it in one piece. When you take the top off the top of it. Remember when you're a kid, you take the top of the car off and you realize that it's actually just made in one big single piece. Well, cars have never been made that way. Tesla was suggesting doing this. And I think I read on Inside EVs, maybe 500 so-called engineering geniuses, all claiming that they were engineering geniuses, saying if this was feasible, if this was a good idea, that legacy automakers would have guaranteed 100% already have done it. Therefore, it was a terrible idea. It was only Elon Musk's hubris that came up with this idea of gigacasting, came up with this idiotic idea of structural battery packs, which is just plain stupid. They said this. I guarantee you this comments are still there. So if you want to go back and have a look at some of those original comments, they're everywhere. There's thousands of them actually all over YouTube. A lot of these people claim that they're engineering experts that work for whoever or whatever, or I don't know, have some sort of PhD in whatever, metallurgy or anything else. And they also claim that companies have already been using gigapresses and making, massive casts for their EVs. And they like to claim that Audi was doing this. I looked it up. I couldn't find any proof or evidence that there was any truth to this whatsoever. Anyhow, the point is here that now other automakers are doing this. BYD, for example, interesting, right? BYD, how much profit did they make last year on EVs? Very little. In fact, last year they made an average of $1,000 per car on average. We heard reports earlier last year to say that they were losing money on their vehicles. I tried to debunk those claims because it wasn't true. It was like YouTube anti-BYD people just telling lies because that's what people wanted to hear. People want to hear, oh, BYD's doing badly. They're Chinese. They suck. They're terrible. But the truth is they've done very well. One of the key reasons they were able to triple their EV profit this year is because they changed the way they make them. They started doing what Tesla's doing with structural battery packs. They, in fact, did it very quickly. They didn't mess around, and they weren't like the Titanic, slowly moving their ship. Oh, we'll do gigacastings in 2029 because it takes that long. No, it doesn't. BYD just went and did it within 6 freaking months. They turned out and they had they got, I think, 4 different models now with structural battery packs. I'm going to guess they probably make more profit on those ones than they do on their non-structural battery pack versions, and eventually all BYDs will have structural battery packs as well. Now, only two companies that we know of worldwide make a profit on EVs, BYD and Tesla. Both of them are using structural battery packs. And of course, Tesla is able to make a little bit more profit because of its increased efficiency with gigacastings. Tesla has pushed the limits of casting technology to be able to produce the rear and front on the Model Y. So it's made in two pieces. And they have a 9,000 ton press for the Cybertruck, which is enormous. It's basically a machine the size of a house. In fact, it's bigger than a lot of houses. A new report says, though, Tesla has upped the game significantly. They've achieved a series of innovations to make a technological breakthrough to die cast nearly all the complex underbody of an EV in one piece. This, my friends, is the Model 2. This is how Tesla can reduce the price of the Model 2 to $25,000 to die cast the entire car. This was Tesla's plan. They've been planning on doing this for a number of years. That's why we don't have a Model 2 yet. And a lot of people were wondering this, and I was wondering, why? What the hell's going on with the Model 2? I mean, we know they had a Chinese design studio designing this thing about 4 years ago. Why is it taking so long? Well, Tesla had to work out how to produce one of these vehicles at a price of $25,000 and still make a profit. That's very difficult to do. General Motors said they can't make a profit on EVs that cost between $30,000 to $40,000 no matter what they do. So this had to be done, and it took a lot of work. The report from Reuters says it's based on 5 people, as in, I believe, 5 engineers who were working directly or indirectly on this project. The 5 people said that a single large frame combining the front and rear sections with the middle underbody where the battery is housed will be used in Tesla's small EV, which it aims to launch with a price tag of $25,000 by around 2025, 2026. Initially, those vehicles will be produced at the factory in Texas, of course, Gigafactory Texas. But once the factory in Mexico has actually been manufactured and Tesla has all their production, basically they need a whole bunch of Chinese companies to set up production facilities in Mexico. Once that happens, apparently it's going to be an investment of, I believe the Mexican government said around $12 billion in total. Then the Model 2 will be made in Mexico. The report says Tesla has not yet decided to definitely use the technology for its next generation vehicle, but it will make a decision very soon. Reuters claims one of the innovations involves using 3D printing, and Ford, by the way, have been using 3D printing as well recently to help it avoid some of the massive problems it's had with supplying different parts. It's now actually 3D printing some of those parts themselves, but that's on a small scale. This kind of 3D printing Tesla's talking about is on a much larger scale. So they're using 3D printing and industrial sand to create the molds for the casting. This can cut the cost and the time it takes to make inevitable modifications to the molds. To overcome the obstacles, Tesla turned to firms that make test molds out of industrial sand with 3D printers. Using a digital design file, printers known as binder jets deposit a liquid binding agent onto a thin layer of sand and gradually build a mold layer by layer that can die cast molten alloys. Now, I've actually got a friend who works in the bicycle industry. I used to as well. He manufactures bikes using carbon and titanium, and they actually make the parts for these bikes, the titanium parts, using a very large 3D printing machine. It's really impressive the way that they can 3D print these complex titanium parts. They're much better than what you can make if you hand make anything out of titanium yourself. The report says Tesla is using Desktop Metal's X1 machine. Another innovation is through material science. Tesla has faced issues with having an alloy that works both with the 3D printing process of the mold and the performance and safety requirements for a car. But they have made progress and basically started to figure this out. Sort of like what Tesla did with the cold rolled stainless steel they're using for the Cybertruck. To get that cold rolled stainless steel, SpaceX had to go through several different iterations to work out how to manufacture it. That cold rolled stainless steel is a little bit different to other pre-existing stainless steels. The casting specialist overcame that by formulating special alloys, fine-tuning the molten alloy cooling process, and coming up with an after-production heat treatment, three of the sources said. Once Tesla is happy with the prototype mold, Don't know if they are or they're not yet. We haven't heard. It can then invest in a final metal one for mass production. Now, like I said before, Tesla has a very good metals team at SpaceX. So they've actually used some of those engineers, it's believed, on this project for the Model 2. Possibly also some Chinese engineers that they have working in China at the Gigafactory there. The report mentions that Tesla has not finalized plans for a new, bigger gigapress needed to build these large single unibodies. And it also didn't really mention how the 3D printing kind of works with the gigapress machine concept. But in some way, I'm going to guess they complement each other. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out and how these two things work together. I'm going to guess someone like Sandy Munro would be having an excitement orgasm right now, just going, wow, this is so interesting. The industry change is coming really quickly. I mean, the automotive industry hasn't done much over the last 50 years until the last 10, right? The last 10 years, all of a sudden we're seeing all these new battery technologies, all these new innovative ways of building cars, and it's made the automotive industry actually really interesting. It used to be a bit boring. You know, we'd see different groups say we invested $2.6 billion on these new engines, and they're almost no different to the previous ones. Now, though, we're getting really new and interesting innovations, and I find all of this very, very interesting. What is scary, though, is the fact that the Chinese, you know, they are very good at imitation, and imitation is a sincere form of flattery. But I think it's a smart way to do it. I mean, Chinese EV manufacturers, they didn't innovate with gigapresses. I mean, Tesla was the first company to start doing that. But they saw Tesla doing it, and they went, "Well, we're not idiots. That's a good idea. We're going to do the same thing." So if they're doing the same thing, and legacy auto are not, what is the future of the automotive industry going to look like in 10 years from now? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching.